Here you see our big, heavy-duty trimmer. Let's start again from the mast. Here again we have our Atlas mast. It's the same profile like on our hexagon frame, you know. For the angle adjustment, again, here we have our hydraulical cylinder. And on top, mounted on this Atlas mast, we have our hydraulical width adjustment driven by chain. So we go now to the left-hand side. Here you see our L-shape trimmer. On this cutting bar, we have mounted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 knives with 3 blades. And here on the top knives, the cutting bar, we have mounted also 3 knives with 3 blades. Remember, 3-bladed knives and 2-bladed knives. Here on this cutting bar top, we also have a collision protection. That means if you hit a post, it will move back and protects the machine from damage. Also on the vertical cutting bar, we also have a collision protection with this shock absorber. That means this bar will move back and forward. Here on this L-shaped trimmer, we also can adjust the height and also the angle. We make this mechanical by hand, the height adjustment, and over there the angle adjustment of the top knife bar. So let's move to the right-hand side trimmer. Here you see our U-shape trimmer. With this hydraulical cylinder, you can move the top knife up and down by 400 millimeters. With this hydraulical cylinder, you adjust the angle of your U-shape profile. And also here, with this screw, you can adjust also the angle of this cutting bar mechanic. You just open the nut, loose it a little bit, adjust the angle like you want, tight it, that's it. Also on each cutting bar, we have our collision protection, like I have shown you before. I will move to the other side. On top of it, we have our hydraulical width adjustment for your cutting width. Depends on the amount of knives on your top cutting bar. For example, here we have a cutting bar with 2 knives on top. That means our cutting width is about 550 millimeter, hydraulical adjustable. And if you are using a cutting bar with 3 top knives, you can adjust your cutting width by 700 millimeters. Again, collision protection on both sides. And also on the cutting bar top. Here you can see our undercut knife. You can adjust the angle of this undercut knife by 45 degrees. Open here the screw a little bit, adjust the angle like you want, tight it again, and you can work. If you don't want to use this undercut knife, you can also keep it straight. So you have 6 knives instead of 5 knives. About hydraulic motors, we have 3 versions of hydraulic motors: 8 cubic, 11 cubic, and 14 cubic. Depends on the amount of knives on your cutting bar. For example, by the 2 knives per cutting bar, we are using the 8 cubic motors. If you have 4 or 5 knives on a cutting bar, we can use the 11 cubic motor. And here on the top version, cutting bar with 5 or 6 knives, we have to use the 14 cubic motors. That also displays on the oil consumption. By the 8 cubic motor, we are using 16 till 20 liter per minute of oil. And on the 14 cubic motors, we are using 25 to 35 liters of oil.
Here you guys see a U-shaped trimmer, one-sided. Why does it look so weird? In Germany we call it the walking stick because it's used in terraces to cut the one side not as low as the other side. Yeah, we'll start from the beginning. We have our Atlas mast with our hydraulical angle adjustment and our parallelogram on top, which work, as I told you guys before, simultaneously. Sorry. So it always keeps your machine, when moving to the right, in a straight position over your leaf wall. Yeah, we have a mechanical tunnel adjustment, not like Stefan showed you before, the hydraulical. Here you just have to open up 2 screws on top to get your right distance in between the two cutting bars. Yeah, adjusting the knife, I don't know if you guys saw it before, but we have the screw on the outside right here where you can adjust your angle of your cutting bar either way, up or down. We have a big adjustment right here. Then we have the shock absorber again. Stefan will show you again, just to show his big arms. We have a screw on top here. There's the screw and there's a counter nut. If you open the counter nut, you can also drive in such an angle to cut from the top perfectly if you have heavy duty. The top knife moves back as well, and it has a screw as well on top of here, which will allow you to drive in kind of a backwards position. If you have heavy canopy, the canopy will move slightly into your knives and will be cut smoothly. There's also the angle adjustment of your whole machine right here, of the outside head, by a mechanical piece. Our hydraulic motors, as you guys could see, do not sit straight on our knives. They're driven by belts over rivet rolls, so that the motors are always protected when you're driving a collision.
Okay, so let's start the tractor. This brand new Fendt Vario, it's like you're sitting in a cockpit of an airplane. Unbelievable. So at first I have to unlock the valves with this button. Start the oil flow. Good. And now here we have our joystick with these buttons up and down, left and right, and the trigger button on the back side of this joystick. With this button, the first green one, we can move the mast up and down, up and down. The second pair of these green buttons is for the width adjustment on top by chain. The second green pair is for the angle adjustment of the mast. The first one will move the mast to your left-hand side. Second one to your right-hand side. Left-hand side. Right-hand side. And on the outside of this joystick we also have a second pair of buttons. The first one, or this second pair, will move the angle of the U-shaped trimmer. So we'll keep the mast straight. And then you can see from the outside, here we have this red trigger. That means if I hold this trigger, push the outside green buttons, our top knife cutting bar will move up and down, up and down by a length of 400 millimeters. And we have another movement. If I hold the trigger and this pair of buttons, our U-shape width adjustment, the cutting width adjustment will change. You see? Here we have our two top bladed cutting bar with two knives. So we have a movement distance of about 550 millimeters.